What's going on?
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts feeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
I like this. I like this a lot. We're keeping you guys on your toes. You never know whether or not it's a pre-record and we're just in the chat with you, or we are live.
Is
like
it
we are
live or
tonight.
is it Memorex?
That's it. You guys are going to have to continuously keep up in what we're doing. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It is our Sunday night live show with myself and Mr. Ken DaCosta, and we thank you guys for joining us tonight. Our chat room is already rapidly filling up. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, you guys. I hope you're having a great Sunday. It's absolutely brilliant here in Florida right now. I mean, it was low 70s to mid 70s during the day, 60s in the morning, and now tonight it's also in the 60s. It's just gorgeous. So, we've got a good 3 days of this, and then we're back to Florida weather.
Sucks here.
But define that for Rhode Island. You don't have snow, so you should be happy.
Rain, cloudy, raw. It's been one of those weeks. You ever have those weeks out there, folks, where you're just like, is it Wednesday? No, it's Tuesday. It's been that kind of week this week.
Well, you're always keeping, you're burning the candle at both ends, so you're always keeping busy. It's a surprise, what's up and down. So I think that anything else right now that you add to your list, Ken, you're just going to topple over.
Yeah. No, it's just been one of those weeks where one day blends into the next, and the next thing you know, it's Sunday, which I thought was yesterday. It's kind of like that, folks. Come on, you've had those kind of days. I know you have out there. Thank you for joining us tonight, everybody.
Yeah.
In the chat. Cody Satori, I think they're still out in Wisconsin. Hi, guys. A couple of cheeseheads looking for some curds out there.
Yeah, and they don't bring anything back. You guys do this cooking show now, Last Bites. You would think that they would bring some fresh Wisconsin cheese back to you, Ken.
I might get some cheese. You don't know that. You don't know that.
Well, it helped that they're in the chat and they heard you say it now. So
right.
That works.
I'm going to shame them into it.
Get your favorite beverage ready, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great show for you tonight. And the next 2 hours and the best discussions and topics in and around the paranormal. And we're very, very fortunate to have these folks join us tonight. And certainly anybody that's in the chat that has a warrant, make sure that you don't comment whatsoever. Just stay there quietly, silently. Just, use the rights that are affordable to you. So, Ken, if you would like to do the honors, sir.
I would love to. So, two retired police officers in Arizona, Marianne Robb and David Rich, have
Uh-oh.
created the organization UAP-PD to provide a safe place for officers and first responders to share their stories and stressors about witnessing unusual phenomena without fear of reprisal, the threat to their career, or the ridicule from inside their organization. And tonight they're joining us to tell us about the organization and some of their most compelling cases. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you dead airheads out there, Marianne Robb and Dave Rich from UAP-PD. Hello, folks.
Welcome.
Hey,
Hi, guys. Thank you for having us on tonight.
We talked about this prior to air tonight. I've got gold bars behind them.
Yeah.
Tells you how well they are managing with the success of what it is that they're doing.
Right.
And what are the patches that are on your shirts, each of you? They look like they are different.
Well, they're kind of different, but the same. These are our UAP, here we go, our UAP PD patch that we made up. Dave is wearing our polo shirt that we use when we do investigations. We go out and speak to officers, first responders. And my shirt here is our T-shirts that we are selling. And we have the small logo on the front. And if you can see on the back,
I love it.
we have on the back here. And
Cool.
it's really neat. Matter of fact, we just made some hats and some coffee mugs and stuff like that. But and what's really neat about this patch that we have is it just shows exactly what we do. We don't just get stories from officers, first responders about UFOs or UAPs, but we also get the paranormal, and we also cryptids, Bigfoot, skinwalkers, things like that. So in our patch, if I can do the right side, it shows that in our patch that we have everything is involved here. We've got I can't do that, can I?
Everything under the umbrella.
There we
got
go.
the UFO on the
There
top,
UFO.
and then there's the ghost in the middle and the Sasquatch on the bottom.
Right.
All right,
It's just so weird.
You're wearing the color one, and then Dave is wearing the monochromatic.
Yes.
That's
Got
the
it.
story of my life, monochromatic.
It's so fashionable out there in Arizona.
It is. I like it. I like it. I like it. So make sure before we get out of here, where people can get those, when they can get those, and, support the cause. It's very important, as you are going to see as this show progresses tonight.
Yep. So, Dave, Marianne, we gave you the rundown before we went live. Ken is going to take over now, and I'll be back joining you guys before we get to our mid-show break. So, Ken, it's up to you, sir. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, George. Okay. Once again, Dave, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This promises to be an interesting couple of hours. So let's start at the very beginning, right? What sparked the idea for UAP-PD? Was there a particular moment or case that made you realize that law enforcement needed a dedicated space in which to report these encounters?
Yes, definitely. Matter of fact, oh gosh, it was a couple of years ago that Dave and I were just, after a meeting that we attended, we were just talking about how you hear things on the news. You've got disclosure coming out. You've got the military pilots. You've got the regular airline pilots, and they're talking about these UAPs. And with the disclosure, it's starting to be a little bit easier for maybe the military to come forward and talk about this. Not very easy, but it's getting easier. Well, I was talking to Dave, and I go, why you've got the military talking, but why aren't law enforcement and first responders talking? You don't hear them out on the news or in the government doing a disclosure hearing. Why aren't they involved? And I was telling Dave about that, and the next thing he says is, I will tell you exactly why they're not talking. And it was his experience that he had with the agency we both worked for. 2017 was his incident where, and I'm going to let him tell the story because I can't go anywhere near telling the story like he can. But again, I'm going to let him tell you why we did start UAP-PD.
Yeah, so that conversation that we had, Marianne was like asking, hey, why, exactly like what you said, why, if we have first responders, they're on the road 24 hours a day, why are they not coming forward? And I told her, back in 2017, I had an encounter where I was ordered to investigate it. Once I got to the end of the investigation, I got called upstairs to a sergeant's office. He had all of the evidence that I had gathered spread out there. Without going into a ton of detail, it was a 911 call that was called in by an unknown source, we'll call it. But we did a full investigation, everything from analyzing video to everything you could do to investigate this case. And this sergeant looks at me and basically accuses me of lying and says, you're making this up. It's not real. Even though you have all this evidence, I think it's all being hoaxed and stuff like that. He's like, you're not going to file a report. You're not going to talk about it. You're going to shut up and leave and not bring this up ever again. And so at the time that it happened, I was a little kind of put out by that because I was doing my job and then now being told to not follow up with this. So I left the office and I'm walking down the stairs. And that was the first moment that I realized, I was just ordered by a sergeant to not report on this. So it basically became like this thing where I was questioning, well, how far does this go? Like if I keep talking, is my career in jeopardy? Is my career over? That was the implication that I was given when I was sitting in the chair. So I didn't talk about it for years. It was, I still had almost 6 years left in my career and I just basically buried it. And so I wasn't allowed to talk about it. Every time I got called upstairs, I was wondering, did somebody run their mouth? Did somebody say something? Is this going to come back around to bite me? And I kind of explained all that to Marianne, but in the process of explaining it, it kind of, I at that time, I had only had maybe like 6 months left before I was going to retire. And I came to the conclusion that, once I retire, they can't stop me from talking about it. And more importantly, I realized, if this happened to me, it's happening to other people because there have to be other officers. And I know when we were having this conversation, there was a third party there. And I know that they were kind of like hinting at, oh, maybe it's part of like some great global conspiracy to try and hide the truth. And I'm like, no, it has absolutely nothing to do with a global conspiracy. It has to do with the fact that I had a wife and kids. Well, I still have a wife and kids, but I was supporting them. I was trying to, make ends meet and stuff like that. And right now, if I keep talking and they fire me, then my career is shot. And then there's this whole ramification, and we started realizing that there were stigmas that were in place, everything from the threat to your career, to your credibility, to people, simple things that a lot of people don't think about. If you're the guy that saw the UFO or saw Bigfoot walking down the street or saw the ghost, and now you are going to a call for service that may have nothing to do with that topic, but it's what we call a hot call, a dangerous call. They're sending backup. Now your backup is like, oh man, now I'm going to this call with the guy who sees ET or the guy that sees Bigfoot. And it creates almost this literal physical threat of when we go to scenes and we're in hot calls, we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be watching this guy or I'm watching this corner. Now I got this guy. He's not watching his corner because he's watching me thinking that I'm going to go off the rails on something that's ridiculous. So eventually officers who are in that situation start realizing it's not worth the grief. And now instead of taking backup to calls, they're going to calls by themselves that are not calls they should be going to by themselves just because they don't want to. And so we ended up realizing that there are all these stigmas, everything, like I said, from credibility issues to your career to your safety. And I, for 6 years, sat on it and had nobody to talk to. Now that I'm able to talk about it, now that we're able to do it, we started reaching out to officers and just trying to find people and say, hey, look, I know what you were going through. It happened to me. You can call me, tell me what's going on. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, ridicule you. I'm not going to tell anybody. But the thing that's great about it too, they tell me what's going on. Nobody can force me to release names. So we tell officers, you can tell me what it is. I am never going to release your name unless you want me to release your name. I'm never going to, I'll tell the story if you let me tell the story while we're going around doing podcasts, doing stage presentations, stuff like that, to try and get this message out there to make it seem more. But the reality is we're trying to push a needle. And that needle is what society views as, are ghosts, demons, cryptids, UFOs real, or are they not? And if you believe in them, are you crazy, or do you just have a different perspective? And it really came to a head when we were interviewing 2 officers from the Gila River Indian Reservation, and I explained my story, what happened to me, and the officer literally looked at me. I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, that never happened. They would never do anything like that. Like, our supervisors, our sergeants, lieutenants, and stuff like that, they're like, oh, yeah, they're welcoming, they're helping when you encounter something like that." And the reality is because in those cultures, all of those beliefs are woven into their history, into their culture. They are believed, they are known. The rest of the society isn't along that way. And so what we're trying to do in a nutshell is take that needle and push it a little bit over to make it a little bit safer for first responders, not just police officers, but firefighters. We got stories from firefighters, EMTs, park rangers, game and fish. Yeah, game and fish. We've got stories from all these different groups, federal, local, county, and we're finding that it's a lot more prevalent than what we originally thought.
I can certainly identify with that. Over the years that I've been doing this, I get a great many stories, not just from policemen who have been called and have witnessed paranormal phenomena, but a homeowner who hears, I don't know, footsteps coming up the stairs at 2 a.m. Well, I mean, they're not going to call Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. They're going to call the police. There's an intruder in the house. They're not thinking in terms of roll over, go back to sleep. It's a ghost or something like that. They are going to call the police with a legitimate call that there could be some kind of danger presenting itself. So over the years, there have been a lot of policemen off the record that have told me some wild stories and very credible stories. But let me ask you this, right? From your experience, is there a little bit of a paradigm shift going on now with police officers talking about these things more, even off the record? Has that stigma at least shifted a little bit in the last few years?
I don't think so. We're still like, we get officers to talk to us because they trust us, because we did the job, they did the job. So they're willing to come and talk to us for that reason. But when they come in there, like, we had a great example. We had one guy who was a detective that I actually worked with for years. Like that level of, we were in the same unit together working. And when he came in to tell us his story, you could literally see how stressed and clenched up he was. Even in a safe environment with people that he trusted, he still was almost battling himself to try and get the words out. The thing that was nice though is there came a tipping point where about halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way through, you could all of a sudden start seeing his shoulders start to relax. You could see him start to kind of calm down and kind of recognize the benefit of getting this out, talking to somebody who he trusts, who was willing to listen to him and not judge. And by the end, we were having a great conversation. But it's almost, I don't want to say disheartening, but it's kind of disturbing to see a guy that I worked with, and we did search warrants together. We were on calls together, doing all sorts of stuff. To see him so tensed up, and then finally to ultimately see him relax when he got out. And now it's great. I was just talking to him a couple of days ago. We were texting back and forth. So it's great to see that that benefit. But like you said, have we seen a shift? Not really. We're still trying to kind of work it, and we're hoping that things like this, like your podcast here, is going to help get that out. And hopefully people will, go to our website, go to the Facebook, make contact with us, and understand that We want to hear your stories, and we will let you dictate how much of that story is out. If you say, hey, I just want to tell you the story, but I don't want it ever getting out, we have
Right.
people that have told us that, and we're like, 100%, tell us a story. We will not talk about it. We won't use your name. We won't use the story. We won't use any of it. We'll just kind of put it in the back burner, in the back shelf, and just leave it where nobody sees it. But at least they get that benefit of getting it off their chest, which is the first step towards kind of getting past these things.
The one thing that, case in point about that is when we started UAP-PD, Dave had 2 weeks left on the job. 25-year veteran of the police department. 2 weeks left before his retirement. I was getting on Facebook and I was talking about our great new organization that we have, and that please share your stories with us and all this. Well, come to find out, even that 2 weeks, having a seasoned officer before he retired, he was getting ridiculed by officers that he's working with at the police department. Bumper stickers, honk if you love grays. He would have, I think, a tinfoil hat pinned your way on your locker.
Mhm.
So it's in 2023, 21st century, everything's coming forward, but officers are still doing the jokes to other officers. One other point is going to court. Now, we're thinking that, okay, officers can start sharing little bits and pieces of their stories, doing a little bit of disclosure. But if they go to court, I could almost guarantee that this is what would happen. You're on the stand, maybe a carjacking, a stolen vehicle case, cut and dry, caught the suspect in the car itself. And the defense attorney comes up and says, so, officer, let me ask you, did you really see Bigfoot, a couple of weeks ago? And, well, you know what? I'm on the stand, and what I do as soon as before I got on the stand, I raise my right hand and says, I am sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. So I said, yes, I did. Well, the defense attorney makes a comment going to the jury that this officer saw Bigfoot, or you can use the analogy of a UFO or anything. But then you get one juror that starts snickering, starts snickering in the jury box. Well, you have 11 other guys. They go back to the jury room. One juror goes, do you believe that, officer? What a crackpot. They saw Bigfoot. They're weird. So what happens there? The jury comes back with a not guilty verdict because they're thinking something's wrong with that officer. And that person gets off with that charge. Now that defense attorney tells all his other defense attorney buddies about, hey, you want to get off if this officer has a good case, you want to get your guy off, just ask about the Bigfoot sighting. Jurors, they'll love it. And you'll get acquittal every time. So of course the defense attorneys, the prosecutors kind of get whiff of that, and then you can't be used in the court of law anymore. You're almost now a laughingstock. Gets back to your chief of police. Chief goes, wait a minute, if he can't make an arrest and get a report and put people in jail, what good are they? What's the use? So of course, chief fires you, says, hey, maybe be a meter maid or something like that, because you're not going to be a cop because of that little stigma and that little thing that you swore to tell the truth, and you did tell the truth, and it hurt you. Yeah. So that's in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about the stigma, it's on a personal level because that judge doesn't want to be seen as co-signing it because of the questions he's going to have, and the local department doesn't want to lose public trust, because the court of public opinion is important. Yeah. And they don't want to lose what they perceive as credibility. So there's always that stone wall between them, And
it even extends past that, because that officer who then gets terminated, he can't go to another agency, because if he shows up at the other agency, they're going to say, well, why are you no longer with this agency? And then when they find out about it, you can't get rehired. So
Mhm.
you're literally, when I say their career is over, I mean like literally their career is over. You're not going to be a cop anymore in any state because they're going to know why.
Right. Well, let me ask you this now. What kind of reports are you getting? What does the data say? Do you see any trends developing in the type of reports that you're getting? Are you getting maybe one type more than another in a
Oh yeah,
certain
yeah.
location? Like, are there certain trends when you look at the data that say, hey, this is like a common denominator here?
Not really by location, but we are definitely, like, we've probably got close to 60 cases that we've gotten in the last 2 years, and I would say 90, maybe 95% of them are paranormal in one way or another. So some sort of either like the officers were at a house for domestic violence, or some sort of like 911 call, uh, some sort of paranormal encounter. We have very, very few cryptid encounters so far, but that could be changing because we have a number of officers from Oklahoma that have been reaching out to us now that we're kind of following up with. And then a lot of the UFO cases we don't have. Now, I just had one this past week from a Scottsdale officer who told me about one that he had experienced about 7 years ago. But we're noticing there is a lot more of the paranormal encounters than there are of the UFO and the cryptid encounters. But if you really think about that as an officer, the majority of the time that you're out there on the streets, you're actually interacting with people. You're inside buildings, you're inside stores, houses, residence, apartment complexes. I think you just lend yourself to being in those situations a little bit more than, say, like the park rangers, who might be more inclined to see a cryptid or something like that, or
Sure.
even like your county deputies that maybe, way out, their patrol beat is way out in the sticks. They may have times that they're just sitting, because one of our stories is from a Maricopa County sheriff's deputy who was out there during the Phoenix lights, and he was basically out in the middle of nowhere and was able to look out the window and see the lights when they flew over. Um, so it kind of depends on what agency we're dealing with, determines what more in line of the types of stories that we're getting.
Yeah. Is the you both come from law enforcement backgrounds. So how has that experience, and you've probably already answered this question, your own experience in law enforcement has kind of informed the way you approach this. But what I wanted to ask is your own experiences now. Is there a particular case that really stands out to you where you went, hey, this is really serious?
Now you're
And
talking
we're going to be talking about some of these cases very shortly before
Yeah.
we go to break. But is there one in particular, whether it happened to you personally or someone reported it, either or, where you said, "Wow, this is a very serious situation here"?
Serious situation. Which
Gila
one?
River.
Gila River one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Gila River. Yeah, probably the one that really sticks out is we had two officers that responded to a 911 call at a house in Gila River. And if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, what these guys were doing a welfare check. 911 hang up basically got called into dispatch. They found the location, they found the address. So these two officers head to the house. They are going around knocking on the windows, knocking on the doors. Hey, anyone home? Anyone home? You're not in any trouble. We just want to make sure everything is okay inside the house. So as the one officer's going around banging on the doors, banging on the window, then all of a sudden, as soon as he banged a couple of times, a bang came right back. And he's like, holy crap, somebody must be inside the house. So he goes back, walks around the side of the house, and he's there with his partner, and they start talking a little bit. All of a sudden, they hear a scream, a lady scream. Well, they just stopped for a second and go, did we hear, like, you saw it on their face. Did they really hear what they just heard? It was a second scream. At that point, the officers get on the radio. Hey, we're going to force entry into this house. We're hearing screams. So the officer kicks in the front door. They went and did a thorough search throughout the house. Each officer in police work, there's kind of a methodical way of doing searches in a house. So these officers kind of went around and they just kind of bypassed each other and went in the one area the one officer searched, the other officer searches again. Nothing. Doesn't find anybody inside the house. A lot of places, a lot of these homes on the reservation have crawl spaces underneath to either hide people, maybe hide drugs, or who knows what other reasons they have them. So they found the hiding. There was a spot. They moved the couch. They looked. Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Sergeant shows up, sees that the officers kicked in the door and says, what in the world did you do? The officers explain what exactly they saw and what they heard. And so the sergeant and two other officers do the exact same thing, do a thorough search. Nothing. So the officer says, or the sergeant says to the officer, okay, you stay here. We're going to have somebody board up the house because the homeowner wasn't home at the time. So the officer's sitting there in his patrol car. The folks are going to come from the yard, from their maintenance, to lock up and board up the house, the front door. At the meantime, the homeowner comes home. So she walks in and the officer goes and explains why the door was kicked in and what they did, what happened. And the lady was like, thank goodness, somebody finally heard the things I'm hearing inside this house. And he says, why? Well, supposedly the homeowner had a roommate, a female roommate, that was being bullied and being harassed by spirits. And she just kind of went, and I can't handle this anymore, this roommate, and then took off and just left. So this homeowner was hearing the same, hearing these things, and she's like, finally, somebody else heard him, so they didn't think I was crazy. So as this lady is talking to the officer, she looks over into the corner, and she has this table that has a bunch of religious figurines on this table, and some candles and stuff like that. Well, all of the figurines were knocked over because, they had to move the table during the search. This lady went from being calm to totally being upset and yelling and screaming at the officer. And she was putting these figurines back upright. And she goes, you need to get out of this house. You're now cursed. You need to get out. These demons are going to come get you now. And the officer didn't know what to think. And so he says, I'm out. And he just kind of backed out and he left. But I would say that was probably one of the most intense stories that we have gotten from officers.
Yeah, and they happen. Now, you were kind enough to send some pictures because we're going to talk about some of the cases that have been brought to you. So, all right, if you don't mind, let's start with what I believe is a skinwalker case.
Now, before you shut that picture, let me tell the story before you show that picture.
Oh, yeah, you get a chance to set it up. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I will do that. This case happened in 2019. And as a matter of fact, the person that was involved was actually working with our police agency. And he knew that I was kind of into working with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, back in 2015, 2016. So he was one of our, and I'll use Noah is his first name, and that's all he wants me to tell or identify him as, because he's still working. But Noah came up to me and said, I'd like to talk to you about this case. And he's one of our investigators. So he was telling me that back in 2019, he was driving on this highway. It's Highway 89. And in Arizona, this highway goes from Flagstaff, Arizona, which is in northern Arizona, up to Page, Arizona, which is north, just on the Utah border. So he was headed there. It was approximately about 10 o'clock at night, and he's just cruising. This is a 2-lane road, no lights. You're on the Navajo reservation, so it's pitch dark. There's mountains in the area, but it's all flat. I kind of tell people to picture this. Picture a being on the surface of Mars. It's got that reddish tint to it, but I mean it is flat and it's rocky. So he's cruising up. All of a sudden, as he's going up, he notices that there is some type of creature or something on the right side of the road, just off the side of the road. And as he's coming up, he starts to slow down because he's not sure what this thing is. All of a sudden, this creature starts walking slowly across the street from his right to his left. And so he puts on the brakes and he stops. And this thing is literally walking on all fours. Now, as on all fours, he estimated the hunch of his back was approximately 4 feet tall. And this thing was not moving very fast. It literally, as it was walking in front of the car, it was staring back at Noah as it's going across the roadway. Now, any animal that I know of, if they see lights or anything else, they're gone. They're not going to nonchalantly walk across the roadway. So Noah goes, okay. He kind of gathers his thoughts back and he says, I better slow down and just kind of drive because you never know what you're going to see next. What else is going to pop up? Because it's pitch dark in this area. As he's goes a couple of miles past the turnoff to Tuba City, Arizona. As he's coming up, he sees something in the middle of the road. So he slows way, way, way down because he's like, what in the world's now? Well, now he sees a creature that is up on its hunches, is up on its back legs, and he's just standing there or sitting there in the middle of the road. It's a two-lane road, but it's got the double yellow lines, and it is sitting right on the double yellow lines, just sitting there. And as Noah was passing it, this thing was keeping eye contact with the car as Noah was passing. So Noah's looking at this thing, this creature, and this thing just sat there and just watched as Noah drove by. Now, what Noah says is that this thing was at least 5 feet from the head. While sitting on its hunches, it was probably 5 feet tall. Where to the head and the ears, whatever, up on top of the head. So Noah, being an investigator, he's like, what did I just see? So he's like, I want to go back. I want to go see what this thing was. So unfortunately, and I know this area, both shoulders on the sides of the road are very soft. So it's 10 o'clock at night. He goes, you know what? I can't make a U-turn here. I'll get stuck in the sand. So he goes, I need to go where there's light. There's people. I just need to get out of here. Yeah. So he takes off, gets up into Page, Arizona, finds a Circle K, one of the gas stations full of people. He gets inside. The clerk that is there is a Navajo lady, and she's joshing with the folks, and she's laughing. How you doing? What's going on? And just being very happy and talkative. Noah grabs a couple of snacks, grabs a drink, goes up to the counter. The clerk's like, hi, how are you? Where are you going? Where you been? Or where you coming from? All that good stuff. And Noah goes, can I ask you a question? And she goes, sure. He goes, do you have any coyotes or wolves in the area? And she goes, well, we got a couple of coyotes, but the terrain is not really conducive for wolves. So no, we don't have any wolves. She goes, why? Well, Noah told her the story that, he relayed to me and what happened to him. This Navajo lady, woman, the clerk, gets very quiet, bags the groceries, and hands them to Noah very forcefully and says, you need to leave right now. And Noah's like, what did I say? Kind of thing. So he just grabs his groceries, his snacks, and leaves. Well, he tells me this whole story. Well, I got to thinking, I'm like, all right, what all that happened? I contacted good friends of ours, John Dover and Stan Milford Jr., which were the retired Navajo Rangers. And I proceeded to tell them what exactly happened to Noah. And he goes, well, what everything that you just said is he saw a skinwalker. He encountered a skinwalker. And thank goodness he wasn't able to make that U-turn, because who knows if that skinwalker would have been still sitting there in the middle of the road.
Mhm.
And could something have happened to Noah or the car? So that was good that he didn't do it. He just went up the page. And John Stan proceeded to tell us that one of the, I guess, voodoo, if you want to call it that, is you don't talk about the skinwalkers or shapeshifters, especially not to the Navajo culture, and definitely not at night. If you say anything, it's the SW. And he says that's why the Navajo clerk, what got from so friendly to so serious, she wanted him out, because if there is a skinwalker that's attached to him, she doesn't want it left in the store where she's going to be for who knows how long.
Mhm.
So that one was, I mean, it was an interesting story. So I told Noah, I said, of course, we didn't have any photos or anything. I said, would you mind coming and meeting with one of my sketch artists, and just describe what you saw that night of this creature that was sitting in the middle of the road watching you? And he said, sure. So they got together, and Noah described exactly what he saw. And the picture that Ken is going to show you right now is the exact same. That's what he saw sitting in the middle of the road there on Highway 89.
Okay, so here it is.
And I've been told by some people that, oh, that's cartoonish. Oh, haha, that's funny. That's not what this, and unfortunately, it looks like it's scrunched down a little bit just because of being on the computer, but it's just a little bit taller. Again, Noah here is an investigator. I don't know of one time that he's ever joked when he's on duty or even off duty. And yes, this looks cartoonish. However, this is exactly what he saw. He's not gonna make light of this. And that was a very, very interesting drawing and that creature that he did see.
Well, we've had Stan and John on before, the Navajo Rangers, and it remains to this day, I think, one of the spookiest episodes we've ever had. And, you know, Stan and John, they're the best.
Yep.
They're outstanding. There they are. And they're the best. But that was one of the creepiest, spookiest. I mean, even the chat room was a little unnerved a little bit when they started talking about their culture and talking about these things and how they go about and how the Navajo people react to all of this. It was enlightening, but it was unnerving at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we talk with them quite a bit about some of the stuff that we've gone out and checked and encountered some of our own investigations. So they're an amazing couple of guys, an amazing resource, just absolute the best.
Yeah, we've got Katie Page in a couple of weeks who's coming back. We love Katie, and she talks to them. It's like, we got to tell us, like, Katie, we need to have them back. They're not answering. They're too big now. They're ghosting my emails now. They're too big. They're big stars now.
Yeah.
I want to do one more before we bring George in. Let's talk about the Baker case here a little bit, because I think I know what this is about, but I'm going to need you to set this up a little bit for everybody, and then I'll run off a series of, I guess, 4 photos here to illustrate it.
Okay. This one is, it was an officer that was with Dallas Police Department. And I was able to, I talked to him with, from a friend of ours, Daryl Sims. And Daryl has talked to, we're going to say Officer Baker, because he doesn't want to be, pretty much he doesn't want to be identified. But so I called Officer Baker, and he started telling me that back in 2015 is when he started having some really strange things happen to him at his house. To start with, it was just kind of mellow, I guess you would want to call it. He'd come home from work. He worked the 3 to 11 shift. He'd come home from work. He would notice his back gate being open. Now, he was single. There was no reason for anybody to be in his backyard. He'd find it open. At one point, his garage, he put his garage door open so he can put his car in. And he noticed that there was this greenish yellow pulsating ball. It was about the size of a BB that was sitting on the corner of his garage. And as he got out of his car, he was looking at this thing, and he saw it, and not thinking anything, and just, being a guy, being a cop, he's like, I don't know what this is. This is weird. So he goes and he crushes it. He uses his foot and he crushes it. And he's, so it was, he didn't think about it back then when he saw that. Then he, a couple of days later, on one of his days off, he was contacted. He was talking to his neighbors, and his neighbor said, "Hey, did you know that there's been guys at your house looking around, and they were wearing suits, and they're looking in the windows and looking in the backyard. They're seeing things." And he's like, "What? Why are there people in my house when I'm not working, when I'm out working?" That didn't make any sense. Well, again, he put that in the back of his mind. So back then, after that, it was he said about 2016, about mid 2016, he started waking up with his marks on his arm. And they were like scoop marks. And he's like, what in the world is this all about? And also one of his arms was going numb. So he's going to work, and he's like talking to a sergeant. He goes, I don't know what's wrong. My arm is kind of numb. My navel is hurting a little bit. I've got some pain. I'd wake up to this. And of course, as police officers, we're wearing our gun belts. So it's pressing on his navel. He's like, what in the world? Well, he goes home, again, doesn't think about it, goes back, goes to sleep, gets up the next day, and his arm isn't as numb as it was, but it hurt. And he looked down, and you have a picture there of where it was a scoop mark on his forearm. And he's like, where in the world did this come from? I mean, again, he's single. There's nobody else in the house. Where did he get that from? And so that kind of baffled him on how in the world that happened. Well, then he looks at his navel, and he's looking at it, and what he has on there, there's puncture marks inside his belly button. And he's like, how in the world did I get that? That doesn't make any sense either on what is happening. Where is this all coming from? Well, when this started happening, he told me that he was starting to get flashbacks when this started happening to him, the arm and the belly button, of he believes he was abducted by entities, by aliens, when he was a lot younger. So he starts thinking about it. Here is this BB size, greenish blue pulsating ball that's in his garage. His gate's open to his backyard. They've got these strange guys walking around his house. And he goes, I don't know, but I'm kind of putting two and two together that could this be as they call them, the men in black, the government coming to his house and looking around. And again, Officer Baker did not want to, he was able to kind of trust his sergeant, but he sure as heck wasn't going to tell these other officers about what he finds in his belly button or on his arm. He's keeping quiet because, he doesn't want to lose his career. He's in the prime time of being a police officer. he doesn't want this, but he starts thinking, okay, something is going on. Now, one of the things that he checked out was he knew that he had to defend himself. If he's being contacted by aliens, if they're visiting him, then he needs to protect himself. Now, this officer did contact, Daryl Sims and talk to him and sent him pictures. And the one thing is, it says you need to protect yourself. If you have these entities coming in, then you need to do some type of having a weapon to fight these things off. Well, as he said, Officer Baker goes, well, I don't think I better have, shoot him. I better not have my gun. That would be, you don't know if you're actually going to shoot him, but you might shoot a bunch of holes in the walls. So can't use that. Then he also made a comment that if these entities know metal and are familiar with metal, they might be familiar with weapons, knives, pikes, whatever. So he said, you know what I'm going to do? He made a weapon out of a broomstick. He cut the broomstick in half. He sharpened the one end, and he had this stick, or as he called it, a spike. He kept that under his bed because he knew if these entities came back, these aliens came back, and they're already coming in, probing him while he's asleep, he wants to fight them off. And hey, it'd be great if he was able to kill one. And hey, I've got evidence now that they're coming to visit me. So at one night, this is about 2016. He was fast asleep, and as he's sleeping, he starts choking. So he wakes up thinking, something's, why am I choking? What's going down my throat? He wakes up, and there is about a it's not 5 inches. There is a gray alien that is literally right on his chest. And he's just looking at this thing, and the eyes just like a typical gray with the big eyes, the skin that's kind of tough, I guess you want to call it. It's got an interesting texture to it. And this thing is on his chest. And he goes and he grabs the arm of this alien, and he literally punches this alien 5 times. And he was so mad that this is happening to him, and they're back to harass him and hurt him. So he's got one hand on the alien and he's punching him. And what was weird is that he said it never made a sound. Like if you get punched, you're going to hear or anything like that. He never made a sound. And as he was punching him in the face area, the eyes never blinked. He never blinked. He never looked away. He never did anything. So as Officer Baker's punching him, he's trying to go underneath his bed to grab the spike. So as he's doing that, all of a sudden, unfortunately, he let go of the gray. And at that point, within just a fraction of a second, him and there was another gray that was watching that was in the back of the room. They went straight up through the ceiling and they were gone. And he goes, that was the strangest and the craziest thing. And he got so mad at himself that he let go of this alien, because if he could have grabbed his spike and again, was able to stab this alien, would it have died and he would have had evidence sitting right there? I don't know. But after that happened in 2016, he's had some little encounters he found something in his ear. He was cleaning out his ear one day, and there's pictures of it's kind of hard to see, but there's pictures of this little metal pieces. He was cleaning out his ear and he heard it crunch. And as he was doing that, these pieces of metal, and it wasn't just earwax, it was metal that fell out of his ear. And he, at least this time, finally, he kept the evidence that came out of his body. And I do believe he sent that off to Daryl Sims, and I don't know where that is. But there's a picture there where it just shows that medal.
Mhm.
What he had. Now this came back, and again, they were just, I don't know if anything ever came of it, but that's something he did keep. So it lasted. He has a few things that happen to him nowadays, but the biggest things were happening in 2015, 16, and 17. And again, he doesn't talk about it. That's why he didn't even want to really. He didn't mind sharing with me, but he doesn't want to be identified. Even to this day, it's 2025.
Yeah. We are coming up on the top of the hour, so we're going to take about a 3-minute break, let you guys get a drink, take a deep breath here while we try to pay some bills here. I'll bring George back in here. George, fascinating stuff, my friend.
Yeah, all I kept thinking all the way through is that these officers, these first responders, by all aspects, are the new kids on the block. When you think about what airline and military pilots have had to be censored for 50 years now, and it's all for job security. No one's going to trust a pilot who says he's seeing lights in the sky or that he's being chased by phantom UFOs. It's just not conducive with a professional career, and they'll ground him. They'll ground him in a New York minute. So it's no surprise that now, as more and more evidence is being captured, body cams, the cams that are in the front of the vehicles themselves, that inevitability is there, that there's going to be enough strong evidence to back up the personal experiences that these officers are having. So we've still got a lot to discuss when we come back on the other side of the break. Now, I'm going to play our commercial, which consists of the intros of the other shows that you can check out right here on Dead Air Full Spectrum. We are not switching to those shows, and those show hosts are not going to be popping up after the promos, but we want to do all the promos again for the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, also the thumbs up and the reminder bell for the content. We're going to take our quick break right now. We'll be back on the other side with Dave Rich and Marianne Robb. You're watching Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back right after these messages.
Welcome to Live with Cody and Satori, the paranormal couple. The show will be starting shortly. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Now please welcome the paranormal couple, Cody and Satori.
In cemeteries across the world, some headstones hold more than just names and dates. They preserve cherished family recipes, etched in stone as a lasting tribute. These recipes are more than instructions for a dish. They are connections to loved ones, memories of shared meals, and a way to keep traditions alive. In this series, we'll be honoring these unique culinary legacies by bringing these recipes to life. With respect and gratitude, we'll cook the dishes exactly as they were meant to be enjoyed.
And again, a great shout out to our wonderful Patreon members, which I know is growing exponentially. And, we got to keep adding more and more of the names up on here. We're going to have to shrink down Ken's picture and my picture just to make some more room.
That would be fine.
But every Monday night, we do a live town hall, some surprise guests, always great topics of conversation with our Patreon members. And with regards to the show trailers or the intros that you just saw, well, that was Weird and Live with Cody and Satori. They alternate on Thursday nights. And you guys can, again, just click on the reminder bell and you'll be notified when those shows are airing. Ken DaCosta working tirelessly on one extremely strange after another. The latest one he did, it was on near-death experiences. And I can tell you again, you definitely don't want to miss that. And of course, the newest addition to the lineup of shows, which is getting a lot of good response and a lot of views too, is the Last Bites. And again, the brainchild of Ken DaCosta, working in tandem with Cody and Satori, knowing that there are these incredible recipes found on gravestones across the United States, and taking those recipes and actually cooking these recipes and then tasting them. And from what I understand at this point, Ken, you've gained another 12 pounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have to have a home gym here installed coming this week because lots of desserts, lots of baking, but it's a lot of fun and it's a way to honor these people and their culinary legacies that they left behind. And it's fun to do. And we like to bring it to the world as it was obviously intended for those people to do. So a lot of fun doing it. Thank you for the response. You turned into Paranormal, you got a cooking show. Who knew?
That's right. And keep in mind, every time Ken, along with Satori Hawes, doing the cooking together, wind up having an attachment of these spirits that put these particular recipes on their gravestones. So
Right.
a hauntingly good time.
They're very
Speaking of
welcome.
which,
They keep you fed. They keep you fed. They're always welcome.
exactly. Time to bring our guests, a very special guest joining us again tonight, Dave and Marianne in from Arizona, talking some amazing experiences. And I said it, I don't mind being off screen. I'll jump on for reactions for some of this stuff. But we've got a lot of different clips, a lot of different photos that we certainly want to go over. And these stories are just absolutely amazing. But it's, as I said just before the break, it's interesting. And I'm sure you've used the same analogy or heard the same analogy I just used as far as pilots are concerned. The only difference with law enforcement, I mean, yes, pilots do have the responsibility of the lives of their passengers. And yes, there are going to be people on the higher ups who would freak out and worry about worst case scenarios with the experiences that these pilots have had. Different story with someone carrying a loaded firearm on their hip, going into one of these locations where there is a possibility. Take the story about the house with the screams going through. if they were to see a full body apparition, the response, the reaction, whether it's out of fear or out of just that training to pull out that revolver and fire, whatever that situation is, there's a risk involved with it. I mean, I do understand again where the powers that be are going to stifle this right now. But as we have seen time and again, just as what you've done, Dave, after retirement, how many pilots, how many military personnel after retirement, because you see them on the shows and you see the parentheses, RET parentheses right afterwards, that they now feel free, unburdened to be able to talk about these experiences, what's going on. But with what you have experienced talking with these officers, both of you, do you commend them for their anonymity and making sure that, again, knowing how the system works, it's the best route to go in the meantime?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, George, I was living that. I was that guy who saw that thing and had the evidence and couldn't talk about it. I absolutely commend every one of these first responders that have come up and talked to us, and we respect what their boundaries are that they set. Because of that, exactly like what you're saying, the reaction or the ramification it's up to them to determine it, because they don't know how their agency is going to respond 100%, but we want to make sure that they're comfortable with coming forward and talking to us about what they're talking about. Like, we've got a great example of an example of like an agency that actually is embracing it. And when this story got told to us, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was literally sitting there when they were telling me this feature or this factor of it, and it literally shocked me. And it was one of our reservation officers who was talking about this mission that we're going to talk about later. But one of the stories that I can touch on now that I wasn't going to touch on originally, but it kind of plays into what we're talking here. They have a policy. So every officer in the state of Arizona, you go through the police academy, and then after you go through the police academy, you end up going to your own agency for what they call post academy, which is, the academy is kind of like this great umbrella that gives you the basics. And then post academy is these are the specific things for your agency, your policies, your things that you have to specifically follow that some other agencies may not have. They actually have a policy in place that they teach to their officers in post academy, that if they drive past this certain mission on this road, and it's a mission that we're going to talk about in a little bit, they have the rear view mirror in the car, your patrol vehicle. You are supposed to reach up and flip that little switch to allow you to not see in the back seat. And the reason for that is because if you look into the back seat, you might see two glowing red eyes in your back seat. If you see those two eyes, by policy, you are supposed to contact your immediate supervisor, go to the station, and then they are going to take you to go have a ceremony to sever the attachment that just happened in your car.
Wow, I didn't expect that as the end of the story. I did not expect that as the end of that story. Yeah.
That's
and he's telling me this, and I'm sitting here looking at him like, what? Like, you are literally told that in your post academy? And he's like, yes. And that was the first real, like, shocking aha moment that we had of, you know what? Things on the reservations are a lot different than what we were dealing with. And it all comes into that whole, it is so woven into their culture that it is accepted, and nobody looks at them like they saw something crazy or anything like that. They literally have this in place, precautions for if they encounter something like that.
The only thing that I've ever heard, George, that even remotely resembles that was corrections officers at the New Mexico State Penitentiary are given, I don't know which, it's not necessarily a course, but they meet to discuss the idea of seeing ghosts and apparitions at the penitentiary. There's a little seminar, I guess, that's nothing written down, but they called the correction officers in and say, these reports are pretty frequent, so this is what you may have to look out for. That is the only other time I have ever heard anyone in law enforcement, Dave and Marianne, be given some type of instruction on
Okay.
what to do in this event.
They give them instruction, but are they allowing them, if they do see it, to come forward and express themselves and have a safe zone? Okay, that's cool.
Within, it's very compartmentalized
That's nice.
and contained, is my understanding.
This is the importance of UAP-PD and other mindsets that are similar to that within our field of study. Because what's missing right now with a lot of the claims that you're focusing on, and we will be with some of these other stories too, is something police love to use, the word corroborating. And if some of these officers have not reached out to persons like yourself, and they've kind of kept this to themselves for job security, but can you imagine if there were 5, 6, 7, 8 officers who in the same vicinity on the same patrol were experiencing the same exact thing, and no one is talking about it out of fear of some sort of a disciplinary action against them? And again, I go back to the reference of the pilots and how many different pilots over years experienced things and never shared it. Even with the best friend, while they were still waiting for their flight to take off and they're at, the lounge and just chit-chatting, they're not going to bring it up because they don't know whether or not this guy is going to rat them out. And then, they're before a board of inquiry. And now they've got to either backtrack, no, I never said that, or yeah, I said that, but now face the consequences behind it. So I think what's going to happen, both upon what you guys are doing, which is collecting the evidence. Now, again, you're keeping these individuals anonymous or using pseudonyms in the meantime to protect them, is do you seek moving forward if there is a certain town, let's just say in Arizona, maybe perhaps even your previous precinct, and you hear testimonies from 7 or 8 different people who have had the same experience, when is the time, number wise, to move forward with that then? Where we go, look, we have a collection of people that can all testify that they've had an experience there. Or does it have to be the sheriff and the mayor, that have that experience? And then it's okay, folks, because we're people of power. So we're not going to lose our job.
Well, I think, George, there's a very fine line with that, because
Sure.
what we're talking about are the careers of these officers, just like when you talk about pilots and military people.
Correct.
So you would have to have a way for the people to come forward and talk about it where they feel safe. They're okay with us spreading that word. Maybe some would be kept anonymous still, maybe some wouldn't. But that's where we want to step in and take literally what we always say. We would take a bullet for them when we were on the job. We'll take a bullet for them figuratively now. We'll get the stories. We'll go and talk about it if they're comfortable, just to get it out there, because there's really 2 goals with UAP-PD that we really want to get. First is to create that safe place for officers that can come out and talk and get that word out there, pushing that needle like we talked about earlier to make it a little bit more mainstream so that you don't have these issues. But then ideally, we would love to help kind of help design policy for officers or for departments with how do you respond to this situation? If you do end up seeing something in the sky or something walking down the street, or you're walking through a house and something happens, how do we make a policy that then they can report it? And if we can get that, then maybe what you're talking about, George, could actually happen. Where if now, oh, okay, I saw something, here is policy, how I report it, how it gets documented, and now those things become public record. And if they're public record, then we can get them out. And I think that is what we're really looking for, is that tipping point of when the community as a whole says, okay, yeah, we're willing to accept this. We're willing to listen to it now. Now we have all these stories from these different officers. And think about it. Why are officers and first responders the focus of what we're doing? Because your witness, your initial witness to this case, the person who experienced it, is somebody who has been trained on how to respond to high stress situations, how to gather information, how to document stuff thoroughly and record stuff the best that they can. And it's people that are gathering those information. They're trained investigators. It'd be like, what if a MUFON field investigator conference had a UFO sighting? It's like everybody that's watching it is somebody who's trained in how to take this information. And so that's what we're trying to kind of get here, is create that environment.
George, real quick on that, talking about officers, like you get a team of officers that sees whatever. We can go to a briefing. Hi, I'm Marianne. This is Dave. We're UAP-PD. Hey, do you guys see anything, out of the ordinary? Nobody's going to say a word. Not in that group. But you hand out your cards. Okay, great, fantastic.
Right.
Could be an hour, could be a week later. You're going to have that one officer. Now, he might say everybody saw, but again, like Dave said, one or two people might come forward, but the other ones might not ever come forward. But that's the thing that we get is I'll get an officer, I believe it was in California, that said, yeah, this incident occurred. I saw that. So-and-so also saw it. Let me reach out to them and see if they'll kind of talk to you. And they'll do that. If it's like off duty and it's just one person at a time, they'll start coming and talking to you. But as a group, especially cops, maybe firefighters, I don't think because they don't want to be ridiculed inside that team or the squad, the firefighters, the 4 or 5 guys that are on there. Because if one person comes forward, everybody's like, ho, they're going to laugh at you. So they'll come forward individually, away from the PD, away from fire, or anywhere that they work. But going up to someone and just going to a station and talking out, I guarantee you, there's no way. There could be agencies on the reservation that would talk to you, raise their hand, say, yeah, I saw this. But unfortunately, not in the communities off the reservation.
Yeah, during our presentations, we talk about that stigma that she's actually touching on. And one of the things that we like to kind of jokingly say is we're a band of brothers and sisters, you know what I mean? So we're like a family. And it's like, and I usually use this example of raise your hand if you have a sibling in the audience. Everybody raises their hand. I'd be like, now raise your hand if your sibling's ever picked on you. And everybody raises their hand. And I'm like, that's basically what it is. We're like a family of brothers and sisters who carry guns and tasers. And so they pick on each other just like it. So these officers, they face that is actually one of the stigmas that they are facing is, I don't want to say it because I don't want to get picked on by all of the other officers on my squad or on my team or in the locker room.
But there's a bigger scope, problematic situation when it comes to this field and professionals. If you took the example, and I can see it being realistic without question, a prison warden and 5 of his guards are walking down one of the hallways, and one of the cells opens and closes on its own, right in front of all their faces, stops them in their tracks. They're just blown away by what's going on. That's multiple witnesses corroborating an event. They're not going to tell a single person because there are people who are above them who are going to think all 5 of them need to get fired. They need to get out of there because they've been working there too long. They need to go. You've got your constituents, your voters. I've got family members that are in that prison, and I'm going to trust him to these lunatics. It's just such an uphill battle, and
Yes.
and we're not even talking about the social media aspect of it. Anything and everything that's brought out there is going to be ridiculed and criticized to such an nth degree. The only thing truly is the technology. And again, there are still a lot of the police departments out there that do not have body cams, but there's a lot of them that have, and a lot more that will continue to get out of their own protection. I'm sure their insurance and uh, their legal side is sitting there going, no, just to protect everybody involved, get those cams. That's going to advance it. You cannot dispute that at that point in time, such as the mirror shooting towards the back. I mean, it's an important part of this process is being able to say, guys, don't take my word for it. Here is the evidence. Here's what's going on here. Because
Exactly.
again, people are just questioned way too much on their credibility today. The most competent professionals out there. And you wonder about that too. If there's a lot of people out there who are in professional positions who have had experiences and simply will not make a statement about it because of the ridicule they would have to face. Um, I'll let you respond to that, but I'll bring Ken on at the same time because he's still got a lot of pictures to get through with you guys. And I don't mind because this is absolutely fascinating that you guys talk about these stories on there. But if you want to respond what I was saying, please go ahead.
Well, one thing that you talked about, the prison guards, and seeing a lot of things. First of all, body cam. We would love it. And that's why we thank you for allowing us to come on your show tonight. Is again, we want to get the word out of UAP-PD that we are, as I put it, a quote unquote safe zone for law enforcement, for first responders to come share their encounters. If we have a lot of stories that were back in the 2010s, where there was no body cam. But if there is anybody out there today that does have any kind of body cam, but again, they want to be anonymous. They don't want to come forward. Please just come to us, talk to us. We'll totally, you'll remain totally anonymous. And then we can always get with that department and try to get that body cam. I mean, it is free. I mean, it is public. What do they call it? Public
domain.
Yes, public domain. So we'll be able to get it. They don't have to, the officer, we don't have to tell identify the officer. Hey, we just want it. So just real quick, getting back on the prisons. Had a story of a gentleman that is already retired with federal prison system. And I got a hold of him. He didn't know where to go. He had all these stories. He had a few ghost stories, encounters. He actually had an entity that came to his house that it was a close encounter with him. And he had no one to talk to. He did not know where to go. So he found UAP-PD. He contacted me. I met with him at his house. Even to this day, even though he's retired, he does not want to be identified because he's still fear of the federal government taking his pension. That's why he's still scared to this day. And it's probably been, 5-6 years since he's retired. But one of the things that really got me is after he shared his 4 stories with me, one of the things that he did is he started to cry. And he said, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for allowing me to share this with somebody, because it was eating him up inside, just like Dave's. Stress eats you inside. It affects your job, your career, and your health. And that was the most touching, is that he actually, big old strong, federal prison guard, and he is crying, thanking me for actually listening to him and letting him express the stories that he had.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, but excuse me, now is probably a good time. I know we had Zach Bennett in chat whose team is predominantly, he said, made up of former law enforcement EMTs. I just want to put this up here real quickly. So anyone out there who knows someone or you have an experience, your former law enforcement, this would be UAP-PD.com contact. And you can get a hold of Dave and Marianne, and you can maybe set up a phone call, an email, something to tell your story to them. And I think that they've emphasized to the nth degree that anonymity, identities will be protected. So please do that. Come forward. I know that you're going to be hearing from me because I have an awful lot of stories with law enforcement from soup to nuts. But I wanted to touch on something you just told with the emotional response that you got. You have to understand that regardless of what the phenomena is, when you see something that maybe you thought didn't exist, or you were a skeptic or had a bias toward it, it can be a life-changing experience. So you've got to carry that around with you. If you saw a legitimate craft in the sky, or, something that you would term paranormal, or a cryptid, any one of these things that fall under the umbrella of the paranormal, it's a life-changing experience. So the first way to reconcile that in your own mind, I would think, is to verbalize it. Tell someone about the experience. That in itself doesn't help you come to grips with it, but it's a good first step. Because when you have had an experience, maybe for the first time in your life, it is life altering. You start to question everything that you thought you knew was true. So this is cathartic, to reach out to you with people of the same mindset that want to hear this story. So what you're doing for those people who do have those life-changing experiences really, truly is invaluable. And that's why we wanted to have you on. We commend you for doing that because we hear so much about it, with people being stymied and silenced, and, to be able to come forward helps that. I don't want to call it a healing. I don't want to get dramatic about it, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. When you have an experience like that, it just changes you and you start questioning things. So you guys are a good first step to just tell somebody about it. Okay. So I wanted to get that out.
And that's another thing, just real quick. You just said something and I now totally forgot what I was going to say.
Not the first time.
Oh my goodness
I
gracious.
talked you right out of it, didn't I?
Oh, there we go. Just on, I appreciate you putting the tag of UAP-PD.com on the /contact. I don't know if they don't get in that way. Go ahead and just take the /contact off. I'm not positive if that works or doesn't work on that. But one of the things I want also people to understand is that, say they do contact us email wise, that's great. I will then contact them by phone. And I have no problem contacting these folks. If they don't want to do anything over the phone or a Zoom meeting or anything like that, if they actually would rather have us in person, knowing that, hey, guess what? We really are cops, retired cops. We really do this. I'd be more than happy to actually fly anywhere in the country and talk to these folks face to face. One story I have is that the witness did not want to talk to me over the phone. They says, if you want the story, you come see me in person. Mm-hmm. I was in my car. I was gone the next day, got a hotel room. I was up in northern Arizona. Because I know some people don't want to do the phone thing. It's not personable. And again, I have no problem going wherever I need to go to help these folks, and have them share their encounter with us.
Okay. And Zach said he'll be reaching out to you. So
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
got that already. Now, I know you folks wanted to, I mean, we have some more things you wanted to touch on, and you've mentioned the mission quite a
yeah.
bit. So
It's
we
good.
have,
I love this one.
we have a series of photos. So I'm going to ask you to give us some context
Okay.
and set this up. Dave, Marianne, whoever wants to talk to us about this, because now
All
you
right.
really piqued my curiosity.
The mission is like my favorite thing. So it is on the reservation here, on one of our reservations. And the way that we found this is we actually ended up talking to 3 different officers from the same agency that were on this reservation. Each officer gave us 2 stories for a total of 6 stories. And of those 6 stories, 4 of them had to do with this mission that is on the roadway. One of them we already talked about, with this is the mission where you have to flip the mirror up so you don't see the red eyes in the back seat.
Crazy.
But there are this mission, it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. Like it's there. There's the mission itself. I don't know if you can pull up the picture of the daylight one of the front of the mission. Okay, so that's the front of the mission. And there is a building just off to the right from this picture that's like a little annex. That's the very corner of the annex there. So it's comprised of like 2 buildings and a little covered patio on the back. The entire thing is surrounded by a fence because they actually still do services there on Sunday mornings. But if you can kind of look in the background there, this mission is truly in the middle of nowhere. It's literally a dirt road that drives past it. There's some little unoccupied shack that's maybe 150 yards down the road. But beyond that, there is nothing for probably a good 3/4 of a mile before you'll find the next thing. And it's a house that's set way back off of the main road.
Now, this mission, if you don't want to, disclose where it is or the name of it, how old is this? Does this go back to
1800s.
Spanish occupation when we talk about
1800s is when it was founded.
1800s?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty old.
Mhm.
But these stories, the reason this mission is kind of known to the officers is that they use it a lot of times because in law enforcement, you'll get reports. You have to sit someplace where you can type them. So there's like this little dirt like parking lot in front of it. And there's that one light that's over top of it that's lit up there. And so officers will park in that dirt area there where they can then type their reports on their computer in the car in the MDC. And it's so isolated that they usually don't have to worry about like somebody walking up on them or anything like that. So they can type their stuff. So a couple of the stories that we got here, I'll start with my favorite one of the story is this officer, the one who told us the story. It was when he was on FTO and he was riding with a second officer, an experienced officer. If you go down that road past the mission, you keep going down for about maybe 3 miles. There's like a little area where all the officers would go shoot. And it's like a little like outdoor shooting range where they could go and they can practice. So he's driving the vehicle, the training officers in the passenger seat, and he's showing them where this range is. So as they come pulling up to drive past the church, they can see that the door to the annex is standing open. And this isn't a Sunday. It's not during the day. It's like early evening, just starting to get dark. And so they see that the door is open. They're like, well, that doesn't make sense because the entire mission is surrounded by a fence that's locked during the week so nobody gets in there. So they see that the door is open. They think, oh, kids, somebody must have hopped the fence, might be in there. We don't know. So the 2 officers hop the fence. They go up to there's like 3 steps that lead up to the front door of the mission. They walk into the annex building and they announce themselves, police department, if you're in there, come on out. And this annex building is not particularly large. It's maybe 50 feet long, maybe like 100 feet long, maybe 50 feet wide. It's not particularly huge. So there's a door in the front, a door in the back, and that's basically it. There's like one little side room that's off to the side. So they announce, nobody comes out. The 2 of them go in, they clear the building. The back door is locked. They go in the little side room. There's nobody there. So there's nobody inside this building whatsoever. So they go over to try and shut the door. And while they're trying to shut the door, they realize that the lock is broken because somebody really did kick open the door. So they notice on the steps there are like 3 cinder blocks. So they come up with the idea of, well, if we can't lock it, we can call somebody and let them know, but let's at least make it look like it's locked. So they grab the 3 cinder blocks, bring them inside, push the doors shut, set up the 3 cinder blocks inside the door to hold it, like bar it shut. They go to the back door, go out the back door, which the lock works, so they unlock it, go out, lock it, boom. They walk around to the front to get back to the patrol car. So like I said, not a very big building. So you're talking maybe 20 seconds to get from the back door to the front where they are. They round the corner. The doors are standing wide open again. The 3 cinder blocks, he said, were 5 to 8 feet off the stairs in the dirt. Like
Still
they had been
stacked?
thrown. No, they were thrown out there.
Wow.
So he looks, sees that the door is open. They see the cinder blocks way over there. There's no way anybody was in the building. The cinder blocks were inside the building. So if it was somebody else, they would have had to have found a way in 20 seconds to hop the fence, go over, shove the doors open, grab the bricks, throw them like 5 to 8 feet away, and then jump back over the fence and get out of sight before they get there. I'm just thinking it's not possible. So the 2 officers look at each other. The field training officer looks at the new guy and just says, "Let's get that out of here. We're done."
Yeah, yeah.
The fence, jump in the car, and they take off.
It's time to go. What is inside that building? What would compel?
It's just a little annex. It's like a little extra area where people could sit and like they could have maybe like a class or some sort of like because the main mission itself is like 100 feet to the right. But it's just like a little overflow annex where you could have like a kid's Bible class or something like that. He said there's nothing really in it. There's no like valuables stored inside there. There's no, it's not like there's anything that like computers or anything. There's nothing like that there. So they think that somebody kicked the doors open just to see what was in there, and were probably disappointed that there was nothing there.
Well, it leads me to this question, right? Okay, so clearly there's something going on there, and everybody is pretty open about it. So how do they keep that self-contained? Is it an agreement and, sort of unwritten agreement that it's like, all right, we know this place is weird. You're going to see some weird stuff. Take a breath. Okay. But we are not going to, or is it like well-known in the community as well?
It's that. It's just well-known. They're just, everybody there knows it. But like I said, these are the same officers that when I talked about my experience were like floored that I caught flack from officers and supervisors. They're like, everybody just knows it. Like it's just, that's the stuff that happens there. You try to do your best to, barricade the door, and we're going to, apparently they wanted the door open. So they left.
You have no idea how much I want to hop a plane right now.
Oh, well,
you have no idea.
I'm not going to tell you, but yeah, we did. So after we got all these stories, I convinced her, and we have 2 other people that we work with in a group in our group, and we're like, oh, we have to go out there, and we did, and we saw things, and we got some on video. But
that's the pictures that we have that you have of the mission.
So that was from the second one that you showed, and then the one in the dark, that was from when we were out there, and there's some stuff. But not in those pictures, but there is some stuff.
I would be so much background history on that place, and
there is.
I can guarantee you we have an answer for you.
I think we may have found some of the answers from one of the. I mean, we have 2 other stories I haven't even told you about this place.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, hey, listen. We're not strapped for time here, so.
All right, so let me tell you one other one, and then we'll see where we stand after that. So
sure.
We have an officer comes up and tells us, doing exactly like what we talked about, sitting in the parking lot typing reports, 11 o'clock at night. Now, you saw what that's like. There's one light there. Everything else is pitch black. There's nothing else around there. So he's sitting in that little parking area, like in the dirt there, like on this side, like towards the front of the screen right there. And he's just typing reports. He's sitting there minding his own business, typing, and he hears something on the side of his car that sounds almost like a like a tapping or a pushing, like something like tap the side of the car. And he kind of looks up, looks around, doesn't really see anything, turns on like the overhead lights to the spotlight to kind of see, doesn't really see anything. So he's like, maybe it's just my brain, just my imagination. So he goes back to typing.
Where anytime they say, "Oh, maybe it's just in my imagination," it all goes sideways from there.
Yeah, well, here we go. It's going sideways, Ken.
You
so
bet.
he goes back to typing. Maybe 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, the entire SUV gets shaken. Like the whole thing gets shaken. He flips on all the lights again, looks around, doesn't see anything, throws it in drive, and takes off. And he takes off down the road, and he is hauling it all the way till you get about a mile and so up the road. There is this Chevron gas station, and everybody kept telling us that all these officers kept talking about when they experienced something, they would beat it to the Chevron. And I'm like, what is it with this Chevron? And then when we went out and had our thing, everything happened, and we jumped in the truck and we took off. And we ended up at the dang Chevron. And I'm like, now I get it. Now I understand why everybody goes to the Chevron.
I'm just thinking of the people who work at Chevron. They walk in and it's like immediately it's like, what's your story?
What did you see now? So he gets to the Chevron, pulls up. Now it's all dirt roads like you saw, so dust kicking up and everything. He gets out of the car because now he's like, freaking out. Gets out of the car, walks around to the side, and when he gets to the side, he sees 2 handprints in the side of the car that are miniature human-sized handprints. So almost look like a child's handprints. Now, the reason why this is significant, for those of you that aren't familiar with the culture out here, there are stories of a race of beings called the little people, who are in the culture, are subterranean miniature humans that have different abilities, and they are the easiest way to describe them is they're kind of like pranksters who kind of play jokes and try to lure kids away and stuff. But as they do their stuff, they get increasingly more dangerous and violent until finally they're hurting and killing people. And supposedly the story, from what we were told, is these creatures live underground, and there is an area that right by the mission where they can actually get to the surface. Now, here's the thing that is interesting. One of the people that we work with is somebody who has abilities, psychic type of ability. She senses things that I can't explain. She comes up with stuff, and I'm like, I don't know where you got that from. And I've tried to catch her and trick her and things, and she kind of beats me every time. But we took her out there with us when we went out there, and we did not tell her the stories, anything about the place. And one of the first things she said, daylight, we're standing there looking at it. She's like, there's something under the ground. She's like, something about this place under the ground. And I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? Because we did not tell her anything about this, any of the stories that we had been given, any history about the place. And the first thing that she tells me is that there's something under the ground, which is the big story that we were told by the officers that happened there.
Well, I got to tell you, okay, seeing it's how it's storytelling, it's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Here, there is a place called the Bridgewater Triangle in New England. Okay, probably heard about it. And it sounds very much like a Native American spirit creature here, little people, called a Pukwudgie.
Yes,
and
very
the
similar.
behaviors are the same. They draw you in out of curiosity. And, it's almost like that pack wolf sort of behavior. It's like you draw the animal away. So it's interesting, those stories, kind of are one and the same.
Yeah,
in that area.
I'm originally from the Northeast too, and I had heard of the Pukwudgies before I had heard of the little people. And that was exactly what I said when they told me about it. The first thing that popped in my mind was the Pukwudgies.
Right. And like an idiot, I've gone walking through that place at night, but that's what I do,
I
I
think
didn't,
we're very similar in that
I
respect.
didn't say I was the smartest tool on the shelf, but a funny story, not really funny, just really odd. Back in the 70s, the legend has it that a couple policemen were sitting in there on patrol. I'm going to send this story to you. And the back of their cruiser was lifted up. Off the ground, they looked in the rearview mirror, saw a big hairy creature literally lift the patrol car up, dropped it, and they bolted. And it's like, yeah, cool story, bro. I can't tell you how I found out, but someone had pulled the police report or went looking for it. The police report actually exists.
Ooh.
It is like, it was like, like this urban legend. Oh, and the police got lifted up. And, okay, fine. Cool story, bro. The report is on file from the 70s. And someone just, curious, went looking for it. And it's like, yeah, man, it exists. I saw it. So, one never knows.
Yeah.
But moving back to this, I know that we got a video to show. Is this connected, Marianne, to Kayenta?
Yes, if it's a video, yeah, for about 35, 40 seconds, yes.
Correct.
That's the witness.
You want
Go
to
ahead.
set it up? Because I'll show a couple of the pictures first, and then we'll do the video
Sure.
if you want.
Okay, this is one of the stories that the witness wasn't going to talk to me over the phone. She wanted me there. So she would share the story. Now, what's interesting about this story is this one kind of came to us through MUFON. Started out with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network,
Yep.
here in Arizona. There was one gal who was an ambulance driver that witnessed a very huge UFO V-shaped craft go over Indian reservation. On the Navajo reservation, there's a town called Kayenta.
Okay.
And she made the report with MUFON talking about this craft that went over this mobile home park, which is also one of the back in the day, they had their ambulance office was a mobile home. So that's where they had their ambulance and they had everything there. So she talked to MUFON about it. MUFON then tried to get a hold of the paramedic that was involved, that was also there, that witnessed that. And there were also a couple of Navajo police officers that saw this thing. Well, what's interesting is when MUFON tried to get a hold of the witness that I talked to, that I went up there, and you'll show the video in a few minutes, is nobody would talk to MUFON. This one gal who was not native, that was the ambulance driver that made the report at the beginning, she talked, but that was it. Anybody that was a native and that lived up in Navajo or in Navajo County, Kayenta, would not talk to MUFON. So MUFON got a hold of us, says, hey, you might want to take a look at the story. I'm hoping that you guys being UAP-PD, that somebody will talk to you, the paramedic or maybe the officers. Mm-hmm. So I was able to contact the gal, and she doesn't want to be identified. She's still working. She's a supervisor, paramedic, up there. So she says, yeah, I'll talk to you, but you need to be here. So like I said, the next day, got in my Jeep, headed up to Kayenta, got a hotel room. The next day, I spent the whole day with this gal. She took me to where this, and this is what the video will show, how the craft came over Black Mesa and how it entered, came over the police department, came over then the trailer park, and basically hovered there for quite a few minutes. What's interesting is as she went, she saw this. First of all, her husband called, says, hey, there's like this UFO that's right over you guys. You might want to go outside. So that's when she went outside. She looked up, she saw it. She ran in to get her partner, the one that made the original report, said, "Get up, get up, get up." So this gal puts on her boots, runs outside onto the porch, like, okay, do we have a call? So she's looking up, and then all of a sudden she finally looks up and sees this UFO, this V-shaped craft right over them. Now, what my witness there said, the paramedic said that as this gal was right underneath, she actually was right underneath the craft. Her hair was long hair. It was standing on edge. It was standing up like static electricity, and it was standing on end. And they were kind of messing with it, and they were funny, you know. They were kind of putting their hands through their hair, and it would stand up, and ha ha ha. They thought it was funny. So just a few minutes later, this craft went over. You showed the airport. It went over the airport, kind of going, I believe it was like northeast. And as it went over the airport, the landing lights on the runway were blinking. And it went over the airport. It then kind of went over that hill that you're seeing there at the airport. It knocked down a sheep fence. It then headed up toward Monument Valley. And just within a couple seconds, poof, it took off like just like shutting off a light. It just, boom, it went away. So after I was talking to the paramedic up there in Kayenta, I found out that the original gal that made the report, that went under and had her hair standing up straight and all this, she actually for 4 years got diagnosed with poisoning, radiation poisoning. And she had to stop working when she was doing an ambulance or anything, and she had to be in treatment for radiation poisoning. It lasted 4 years.
The experiencer, hair on end,
Yes.
radiation poisoning.
Yeah, radiation poisoning. That's the one that told us the original story to MUFON, who is not a native. So she had no problem talking about it. Yeah. But trying to get everybody else, it was very, very difficult. So, like I said, I went up to Kayenta. I met with this gal. If you want to go ahead and show the video, this is exactly how she said this craft came over.
That sounds almost like the Cash Landrum thing in Texas decades ago. Radiation poisoning. Yeah. You know, they tried to sue the U.S. military and got nowhere on it. So, all right.
That.
Well, let's run through this video then. This is the witness statement.
It came out from there. Slowly, it was moving right here. Over here. Slowly over the airport and over the trailer park.
What would you say, the southwest area? Kind of coming this way?
Yeah.
And it was traveling basically northeast.
It came up further, kind of like the whole thing came out and then went this way. Kept going over this way, over the rodeo grounds, over the airport, and then towards the where the trailer court is. I'll show you where the trailer.
And
well, it's not that desolate there. You got a Burger King. Jeez.
That is the only
they
thing
wanted a Whopper.
Yeah, she showed me this craft. It was a V-shaped craft, and it was, oh my gosh, I want to say at least 40 feet in length. They couldn't, it was very tough to say because it's a V-shaped, but I would say from wing to wing was maybe about 40-ish feet or so. And they said
you're talking this, not a triangle. Like nothing solid in the middle.
Oh, sorry, not triangle, but yeah, V-shaped, correct. And it stopped over them for a few minutes. It just stayed stationary. And like I said, it's that one the ambulance driver, she's looking up and, she was right under it. So, like I said, I talked to the paramedic. She told me what happened. And also there were two other Navajo police officers that saw, and it was very tough trying to get a hold of the law enforcement side. They don't talk about things very much. Again, me not being a native, it was very difficult for me to make any contact with the law enforcement side. Just recently, I was able to talk to one of the officers. Did not want to be identified at all, but he did say that he was out working out at the gym, and he got a phone call from a family member, says, get outside now. There's this craft going over, this V-shaped craft going over. So he runs outside, he looks up, he goes, I don't see anything. He goes, look to the north. And he was able to, as he looked, it was the craft that was just slowly going over the airport and start toward Monument Valley. So he was able to see the tail end of it. Supposedly there was a lot of people that saw this. But again, the only witnesses I was able to get was the paramedic supervisor that I talked to in person, the one gal that took the initial report with MUFON. And again, just goes to show you that a lot of first responders and a lot of law enforcement won't talk to just like MUFON or talk to different people. They will talk to fellow officers and fellow first responders.
Yeah. And that is kind of counterintuitive in my mind. I mean, I respect the idea, but it's the civilian groups like your own that hold people's feet to the fire. Whether it's MUFON or, then you get into Arrow, but that's the Pentagon. But so the civilian groups, there's some value in that. Before we go, what did we have? We had a question. George, you want to bring that up? Because we got an answer for it. Oh, George has vacated the premises right now. Yeah. Okay. The question was from Mary Beth. Wasn't there an officer in Minnesota who had a UFO sighting in the 70s or something?
Yeah,
Mary
John.
Beth, you've come to the right place because you're
That's
talking about
awesome. Great question.
Johnson case.
Yep.
So here is
That was an amazing. I still want to go to Minnesota and see that car. That car's supposed to still be at the Historical Society there in, I want to say, Warren, Minnesota.
yeah, and
Where
then
the
it's literally sitting in a museum right now.
Yep.
And
I would love to see it
this
if
is what
it's still there
looks like.
today.
So Mary Beth, being from Minnesota, she's interested in this type of thing. So yeah, okay. So I'm gonna let the folks kind of give you the background, Mary Beth. But you see the missing headlight, you see the antenna bent at 90 degrees, smashed windshield, etc.
Okay, can you put that picture back? And this is what I want to, I'll tell the story, but I want you to see this. Pay attention. Look at how it's the headlight. Straight up, it's the windshield.
Yep.
Straight up, it's to the light bar. Straight up, it's the antenna. If that was a rock, if that was a bird, if that was anything, it would pound. It would go and ricochet off that car. It might hit the wind. They might hit the light, but it's not going to hit the windshield. If it hits the windshield, it's going to veer off left or right. It's not going to go up and over. That one of the most interesting things about this case is it literally what it was went up, went into the car with Val Johnson. I'll tell you that in a minute. And it went straight up. So it went up and over. It never veered left or right.
And I think the other thing to point out is those antenna bent at 90-degree angles or one at 45, but you're talking about something with velocity to hit those things because they're all on springs.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So real quick, I know we're kind of running out of time, but real quick on this story, Val Johnson, and this happened back in 1979. Val was on patrol, Warren, Minnesota. And as he was going down the highway, and he was about to come to an intersection, two highways, and he looks off to his left and he sees this very light very bright white that's just hovering above the roadway. And so he's thinking, oh my goodness, is there a truck accident, plane crash? Who knows what it could be? So he started going down. He made a left-hand turn, starts going down. And as he approaches this light literally comes through his windshield and hits him into the chest. And as he said in his own words, it was like getting hit by a 200-pound pillow. So it knocks him out. His car kind of drifts off to the side of the road and stops. Well, he gets on the radio and kind of just garbly, because I do have the radio transmissions, kind of garbly. He goes, I don't know what it is. I don't know what hit me, but something hit me. And so he got taken to the hospital. They said he had burns in both his eyes, like having arc welder burns.
Yeah.
It broke his jaw and it cracked all of his teeth. So, he had no idea. He, told the story. Again, this is another cop and we have some other cases, but he did not want to come forward and, just tell the story. He was kind of, pretty much told to tell the story. But his car is, they had engineers from, not Honeywell, but one of the big Motorola kind of companies, that they said they did a thorough investigation, and the only thing they could say is a quote unquote thing hit his car. That was their technical term for it. Ford came out and said, I haven't got a clue on what happened. No clue whatsoever. But one of the things I know that he did not really want to talk about it. And I know that really hurt him and his career. And it just, I think it really messed him up. But I got to say, that was one of the most interesting cases. His chief of police believed everything he said. So I bet for him, that felt good that a supervisor didn't tell him to shut up, didn't tell him he was a liar, that actually believed what happened to him. But and I love to see that car.
Physical trace evidence. And there was the clocks, because everybody who comes on their shift typically sets their watch to the car's clock in case they have to report at a certain time. And what was it? How many minutes was it off?
14? I have it here. I think that 14 says right.
14 sounds familiar.
Yeah, 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah.
So that's an amazing case.
That's one of the great stories. I had some others lined up, but I don't know what you guys are doing for time. I'm not doing anything. George is not doing anything. But real quick, another one was Highland Park, Illinois, where police in 4 different towns in Illinois in the year 2000 basically handed off a UFO to each other as it passed through southeast across the state of Illinois. That is one of the most credible unexplained incidents. What you're looking at is one of the officers, Craig Stevens, pulled out a Polaroid camera and took a picture of this thing. And I know people will say, well, what does that prove? But I think you have to bear in mind that it's a Polaroid camera. It's 1983 or something like that. And police use cameras to take pictures of static events.
Yeah.
A break-in, a, tire tracks, an accident, not high shutter speed cameras that can film things flying around. Usually they use cameras as documentation of, like I said, a crime scene, an accident or something.
Right.
And then, the last one I wanted to show was Lonnie Zamora in Socorro, where he is examining where one of 3 legs on an artist's rendition of this craft he saw. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to belabor it too much, but those are probably, in my mind, three of, if not the top three, events with police, first responders experiencing, a bizarre event. And they all have to do with UFOs, but it goes far beyond.
Well, that's it. And one of the ones we're not familiar with, the Illinois one. We haven't worked on that, but Lumberton, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. That's another one.
That's one that we talk about. And it's funny when we do our presentation, that poor thing, that takes me 30 minutes just to get through, because it's like, I think it was 7 counties, 11 police departments, and 27 officers. And it was like
Crazy.
And what's interesting, this was Lee Spiegel's case, the late great Lee Spiegel, and he went out and he chased it, and he was underneath it. That one is just crazy amazing, and just like Illinois, it was just okay, tag, you're it. He's in there, there you go.
Right.
Tag, you're in here.
Yeah, that thing that you saw. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
That's it. And Lonnie Zamora, I think it was a great case. I feel bad for him. He definitely got ridiculed. The FBI, one of the things that really got me was the FBI was ridiculing him, was grinding him, was interrogating him, not even questioning, but interrogating him. But Dr. J. Allen Hynek, when he did his investigation, even in Project Blue Book, in the notes, it said he believed Lonnie Zamora. Now, was this a UFO? Was it something? I don't know. But what Lonnie Zamora saw, what he witnessed, even Dr. Hynek said he believes everything he said. And I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll bring George back in here now as we bring this to a close. But I will tell you guys that I am going to be in touch. I have all your contact information. I have many stories and maybe some contacts and things like that. But that was a great phone call that day, Marianne. We kind of hit it off. It's like, oh, we speak the same language here. This could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I thank you so much, and we'll be in touch with both of you. So
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, folks.
If in fact, with a lot of the cases we discussed tonight, there are breakthroughs, and to the degree that it gives exposure to these officers in the light of credibility versus these incredulous accusations, we would love to have you guys back on to celebrate that.
Absolutely.
You got it. And just showing this.
Oh, yeah, mug.
Got him.
Merch,
This is so
merch.
cool.
We're gonna
And then
get
on the other side is where law enforcement meets the unknown. That's our slogan.
Tagline. Where
Yeah,
do they
you
get
guys-
this stuff? Is it on your website?
What you do is just go to UAP-PD.com. Get
Okay.
a hold of us. I'll make contact with you, and I have these here at my house. Be more than happy to, I'll mail them out. So we'll talk about that.
I'm in. I'm getting a mug. I want to be the first one. So we'll be ordering up.
Sounds great.
You
But
can
thank you
present it
guys so
on
much.
your-
Just real quick, is that if there are any law enforcement or first responders out there that would like to contact us, please, as you see, UAP-PD.com. We'll talk over the phone. I'll come out wherever you are, and we can talk face to face and have a cup of coffee.
And I'm getting it within the United States. There's no tariff on it.
And I'm sure, again, you'll connect with Ken, and he'll get you in contact with Brendan Gayhart. And he's also got some other fellow officers and former fellow officers that have had experiences. So, yeah, we'll bring that your way. Thank you guys so much for spending your Sunday night with us. We greatly appreciate it. And for those of you in the chat, thank you for being with us this evening. As always, tomorrow night, Town Hall, 8 p.m. We'll see you guys then on our Patreon account. Until then, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Until then,
Good night,
take care.
everybody.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips.